I think to be an audacious dreamer, you have to first find your why. And for the last 3 years, wherever I go, people call me the flower girl. But here's the thing about flowers they wilt. And puja flowers, they wilt even faster, in a matter of hours sometimes. Since we started Huvu, my sister Yashoda and I have been trying to solve for this problem. How do we get these flowers to last for longer? How do we figure out the supply chain, the packaging, the distribution? And whenever we would be stuck on one of these problems, I would ask myself, why are we even doing this? I'm not someone who does puja every day myself, and this question of why was always nagging at me. The easy and the obvious answer is tradition. People have seen their mothers, their fathers, their grandparents doing this puja, and so they just learned to copy them. But this never sat right with me. I've never been a fan of any explanation that finds its root in thinking of others as more simplistic than we think of ourselves. And I had the added advantage of watching people who do puja up close and personal. And in the way that my mother, my grandmother, our many customers did their puja, I couldn't find anything unthinking. They cared far too much. That's when I came across a story that changed the question that I was asking. The story is of a hunter, and one day he's just in the forest doing his work. Accidentally, he crosses paths with a tiger, who immediately spots him. So this hunter starts running, and the tiger is giving him chase. Luckily, he sees a bilpatra tree, and he quickly climbs this tree. The tiger, not eager to lose its meal, starts circling the base of this tree. Now, this man is on this branch. Naturally, you would think that he would be thinking about the crisis he is in, how unfortunate he is. Instead, this man looks down and he sees that there's a shivling under the tree. He starts picking the leaves off the tree and showering the idol with it, all the time chanting God's name. At this point in the story, I figured that, God will come and help him and save him, but that's not what happens. The tiger simply gets tired after some time and goes on to its next hunt. And through ordinary circumstances and his own intelligence, the hunter goes home safely. So what's the lesson? For me, the lesson is that moment on the branch. What do you do when you're in a moment of crisis? Do you have the agency to still control what you're thinking and what you're feeling? That's what made me realize. Everyone's life is difficult. Everyone has a different way of dealing with it. For people who do puja, their puja is a daily choice. A choice to take a pause in the humdrum of the day and to say thank you to their God and to find strength in that reflection. It reminds me of a philosopher called Viktor Frankl, who wrote about man's search for meaning. He said that the last human freedom is to choose one's own attitude in any situation, to choose one's own way. And honestly, that makes so much more sense to me, that moment of reflection. My favorite philosopher is another Holocaust survivor, Hannah Arendt. She's a 20th century thinker, and she said, to be able to change the world, you need to be able to love it. She called this amor mundi, love of the world. She went through the Holocaust, was displaced by it, so she was no stranger to the ugly side of the world that we live in. But still, she insisted that it was necessary. She says that this love has to stem from reflection and responsibility. We have to be able to take a moment to pause, a moment to think about our actions and what they really mean. For her, evil wasn't the result of some extraordinary action that one person took. For her, evil grew when ordinary people like you and me stopped thinking of our own actions as important, when we didn't take the time to pause and reflect on what we're actually doing. And honestly, that's what daily puja is about. That's what these flowers are enabling, with their beauty and their fragility. Beauty, because nothing attunes us to the world. Nothing brings a moment into sharper focus than beauty. It tells us to take a minute, to pause in it, and to really live it. And fragility, Because these flowers don't last, because you have to come back to them every day, they tell you not to do once, but to do every day. To come back to this moment, to carve out a place in your life for reflection. So when I first figured out this philosophy around what I was doing, it was easier for me to think about it in terms of philosophers and authors that I loved. Because the reality is, at the end of the day, religion is a very strenuous place. Coming back from America, coming to India, especially as someone who doesn't do puja myself, I was afraid to be in this space. Because when I would tell people what we do, there were some who were really, really excited about it. But there was also other people who were immediately wary. Their suspicion was that we're a part of the same narrative that spreads hatred towards people who don't believe, who creates enemies out of anyone who's different from you. These suspicions and allegations always made me really, really upset. First, because I was like, how can you think that of me personally or my sister? But once I got past that, I saw where they were coming from. But it still makes me really upset. Because if there's any proof that people who use religion for hate or social control are winning, here it is. The fact that a whole religion, in all its enormity, can really be conflated with those that are using it for social control means that they are winning the conversation. And I think that's a tragedy. For everyday people who do this puja, it's not about these reasons. For them, it's about finding strength, clarity, and grace in their day-to-day life. I think it's super important, not just to not participate in a hateful conversation, but to also create space for positivity. That's why my sister and I built this company and want to continue fostering a community around it. To say that this is what our daily practice is about grace, kindness, and gratitude. We think that this is just as important in fighting for what religion means as not taking part in negative conversations. It also gives us an opportunity to rethink what these old traditions mean and what these flowers do. When we bring our fresh perspective to it, I think we can bring a lot of that meaning back. When we first started, an early investor told us a story about puja and flowers that I'll never forget. The story is about Bhim and the Pandavas. So after their death, they're awaiting judgment by the gods. And the Pandavas, who are very pious, and Bhim, who's not so pious, are standing in front of gods when they realize the Pandavas aren't being allowed to enter the heavenly gates, but Bhim is. And the rest of his brothers are really confused. They said, we're much more pious. We actually offered fresh fruits and flowers to gods every day. We did our penance. And Bhim, on the other hand, was fighting his fights all the time. You know, he's hardly pious. Why is he the one who's being judged as loving the gods much more? The answer comes that yes, the Pandavas were much more pious. They did more penance, they offered more to their gods in their daily rituals. But Bhim, with his pure heart, every time he saw a tree that was flowering or a bush that was in bloom, would close his eyes and think of God. In that, his worship was 100-fold that of his brothers. For me, the lesson from this story is that the act of giving, the act of puja, is not about possession or extravagance. It's about attention, and it's about care. Mary Oliver wrote that attention is the beginning of devotion, and I agree with her. Today, we hear about attention all the time and the economy that's been built around it. We're inundated with articles about the attention economy and how in a free platform, what they're actually selling is you and your attention. But I think there's another way to think about it. In English, attention is something that you pay. But in Spanish, it's something that you lend. In German, it's something that you gift. Today, I want to invite you all to think of attention not as a resource because of its scarcity and its value, but to rather think of it as an experience. To say that attention is how we engage with the world, and what we give our attention to is our way of changing the world as well. Flowers bloom and they wilt. And every day they invite us to say thank you. Thank you for the beautiful blooming, and thank you through wilting to come back again tomorrow.